Now Entering is made possible with support from Blackford County Community Foundation, Langdon Brothers Seed, with additional support from Smith Insurance Services, Waters Funeral Home, Hartford City Chamber of Commerce, Raymond James, Robert J. Taylor, Petoskey Plastics, KDC Investments, Citizens State Bank, Blackford County Economic Development, Hartford Veterinary Services. Driving through Blackford County on State Road 3, you could pass through Hartford City in just a few minutes, but the locals here would invite you to stop for a look around. Only a block away from State Road 3 stands perhaps the most recognizable building in Hartford City, the Blackford County Courthouse. Opened in 1895 during the heart of the Indiana gas boom, it's one of 2 Hartford City buildings on the National Register of Historic Places. Hartford City's population doubled during the gas boom of the late 19th century, and the glass-making business attracted so many immigrants from Belgium that the south side of the city was commonly referred to as Belgian Town. Today, you'll find residents who are passionate about art, history, or sports. But perhaps the thing citizens here are most passionate about is helping their neighbors and making Hartford City a great place to live. You'll see that in the stories told here by the residents themselves through their own photos and videos. You are now entering Hartford City, Indiana.
The Godfroy Reserve was a Miami, or more appropriately a Miami village northeast of the city. And it came about during the Treaty of St. Mary's in 1818, when the Miami made deals with the U.S. government in exchange for land and allotments. It was here for about 25 years. Francois Godfroy was a fur trader at heart. His father was a fur trader, his father before him, his grandfather. So he came from a long line of fur traders. When Godfroy received the reserve from the United States government, that placed him just right smack dab in the middle of all kinds of military action as far as travel. And when troops travel, they've got supplies from their ports, but they're going to run out in between. So Godfroy's post was right there where it needed to be. But the problem that Godfroy had was his primary trading post was located in Peru. He was out of the loop when it came to the military road and the military money. So when he received the land in 1818, he put up a second trading post and a home, and the village sprung up around that. And so he was there in the middle of all that early military movement. The reserve in Blackford County was over 3,000 acres at one point. It was a large chunk of land, and it was pretty much the last stronghold for the Miami, who had been pushed around, not only by encroaching Europeans, but also other tribes of natives. And then the ultimate migration was farther west. Even Godfroy left around 1838. He left this, went back to Peru, and just a couple years later, Francois Godfroy was gone. I think the biggest misconception that people have about Francois Godfroy and the Miami people is what was propagated by the Europeans, and that was they were a godless horde of savages, when they couldn't have been anything farther from that. Very spiritual people, a very peaceful people. Every year, in order to help portray the Miami accurately, we put on a rendezvous on the reserve, and it's called just that, Rendezvous on the Reserve. And this happens on the weekend after Labor Day every year. And in this living history encampment is a full-blown Miami village. We have trappers and traders and settlers who are moving into the area, and it's a way to experience what life was actually like in that place 200 years ago.
Hi, my name's Todd Boise. I was a member of the 1979 AA State Championship team at Blackford High School, so we're here to talk about that season a little bit. The regular season, we started off against Muncie South and won pretty handily, and then we came back against Muncie North. It was a really tight game, and for me, that was one of the keys because they had always been kind of a rival. I think that team was very unselfish. We had a bunch of guys that just said, whatever it takes, put me where you need me. And against Muncie Northside, I was terrible. I was at linebacker. John Payne was our nose guard. And we start watching film, and it was evident quickly that I needed to have my hand on the ground, and John probably needed to be standing up. And so we talked, made a switch. The coaches embraced it. I went to nose guard, John moved to linebacker, and I think it was a big help for both of us individually as well as the team. And if you go back and look at the numbers from that defense, it was pretty impressive. We were unscored upon in the first half in all 10 regular season games. Gave up 76 points throughout the whole 13-game season. So I think it all worked out pretty well. This community has always been a sports nut community. I can remember as a kid listening to the games on the radio with my dad. 73 and 74 set the tone from a football perspective. Listening to those guys on the radio, coming to the games, especially the home games, just built the foundation for what the program could be and what the team could be in 79. Coach Leith had done a great job here building the program, getting it going.
In 73, we were runner-up at Greenfield, and we came back that night and had a meeting out here in the gym with parents and so forth. And I was brave enough to say, we're going to bring the gold home next year. And fortunate enough, we did.
We essentially spent all 7 days of the week together. We started off the week Monday. We would have our practice Monday through Thursday. Obviously Friday we were together for a game, and we'd go hang out together and spend time together on Saturday night. And we would all get together at somebody's house on Sunday afternoon and watch NFL games and munch and just hang out together. So we were together virtually every day of the week, and I think that was one of the things that made our group that much closer, which made us be able to rely on one another and trust one another. And when it came to game time, there was no doubt you could trust your fellow teammates. So it was really, really special.
Coach Lori came in, embraced the legacy, talked about guys that had been here before and what they've done and the foundation that they laid for the 79 team and teams going forward. The postseason, we started off with Lewis Cass and came out of that game with a 28-0 win. Moved on to play Concord, and that was a long bus ride up to Elkhart. Ended up with a 17-14 win coming out of that, and it was just a really good football game, and we came out on top. At this point now we know we're gonna play Noblesville. Noblesville's been number one rated team pretty much all season, going down to the big city at Indianapolis and playing on that field for the state final game. Was a big thrill. I know we took a huge contingent of fans from the community, and again, that was another just really good football game. Two teams just slugging it out. I think we were very opportunistic that night. I think they ended up with 3, maybe 4 turnovers, and we took advantage, and then was able to kind of hold on at the end of the game. The defense stepped up and helped us out there, but it was a great experience. Blackford County's got a rich tradition in football, obviously a 73 state runner-up team, and then a 74 and a 79 state championship team. So that really has kind of set the tone for the tradition of football in Blackford County. People come together on Friday nights and Saturday nights for athletics, which a lot of times is the heart of a community, and that's all well and good. But this is a small farming community, and people take care of each other here. We had all kinds of support on and off the field. It's just a place where I was able to learn the value of a work ethic and getting up and doing your job, being accountable. It was a great place to grow up.
My name is Judy Sodders, and I'm here to talk about the first all-night after prom that began in 1951 here in Hartford City, Indiana. An executive at Overhead Door, Paul McKee, who was also a Kiwanian, decided after his two daughters went to the proms, the kids needed something to do after the prom because they weren't ready to go home. So he came up with an idea of an all-night party, and he talked to his Kiwanians, and they all agreed that was a great idea. So they contacted other organizations, and they began planning for the all-night after prom. It was a very classy event. They had a carpet out, like the red carpet when they have the Oscars, and they would have an announcer from WPGW, which is Portland radio station, and he would interview each couple or person as they came up to the theater. And then after you were interviewed, you walked on in, and all the parents and all the interested bystanders were all out in a crowd, just like they are at the Oscars. And then you would go in and watch a premiere movie. It was a first-rate movie. And after that, everyone went up to the Elks Club, which was just right up on the corner. And they had more dancing, and they had a live band, and they had, of course, refreshments and prizes. And then after that, you could go home and change clothes if you wanted to, and go to the American Legion for breakfast. And then after that, you could go out to the country club, and they had games. They had volleyball, they had hole-in-one, they had lots of other games. They had lots of prizes, lots of more refreshments. And then after that, you went home and crashed, if you lasted that long. I don't know how it caught on other places. I would imagine through the Kiwanis, for one way. But I do know there was an article in Coronet magazine, which was a part of Esquire, and it was a couple pages long. It was Paul McKee's daughter, I think, that wrote it. But I know it made me feel better that I knew they weren't out driving to Ohio or driving to Muncie or, driving out of town to find something to do, because they're hyped up because they're having a good time at the prom, and then you just don't go home and go to bed.
I've been a Blackford County native my whole life, lived in Hartford City my whole adult life. David and I met in high school. So we were high school sweethearts, dated throughout high school. He went to Bloomington for undergrad, I went to Lafayette. He caught my eye because he was just such a caring heart. And it was something that he just lived throughout his life. In college, IU, his major, he was going to be a pilot for the Air Force. We had a fork in the road right after we were married, and he was diagnosed Hodgkin's disease a few months after we were married. And that didn't slow David down one little bit. We had to put medical things in the forefront, but he decided once that was a diagnosis, he had to find something else to do, and he studied law. In undergrad, he was an intern in the Senate, and I think that really sparked a love. He served from grassroots on up. In the State House, he was Senate, and he served on the Technology Committee along with many other committees, but technology was something that he was really noted for. He was a leader in the Senate in technology, and received many awards for that. David served from 1994 to his death in 2008. He was tireless, and his high integrity. It didn't matter what he thought was best for Dave Ford or any one particular person. He served everybody the same. He would not ever take a gift. He didn't want to ever be compromised in making a decision for the right reason. And I'm most proud that he was highly honest, high integrity, hardworking. Senator Long stated that he thought David Ford was the moral fiber of the Senate. And I really believe that is one of the highest compliments anybody could ever get. And David never did this for himself, but he did it for the good of all people, no matter what walk in life you had. And I'm very proud of that. He was a member of St. John's Catholic Church. He was president of the school board there. He was a lay minister. He was a reader. But his example is, anybody that knew him just felt like he lived it. He was always a person that served people. He loved people. He was extremely talented. I think he really felt the need to give back. He had the ability, and he wasn't going to put it under a bushel. He was going to let it shine, and he certainly did.
I'm Sandy Langdon, and I'm with Langdon Brothers Seeds. George Washington Langdon bought 80 acres of ground from his father-in-law in 1869 after the Civil War. And those same 80 acres have been in the family all these years. Bob Langdon actually started the seed company in 1936. He planted his first 1 acre of seed corn in 1936. Well, that first year, after he harvested the seed in the fall and he bagged it, he had it stored in an old Chevy car. He had it in the back seat, he had it in the trunk, any place he could find to put it to protect it from the winter and from the rodents until the spring when the farmers would buy it. Ted, his younger brother, had been in the service, and when he got back from the service in 1937, I believe, he joined his brother Bob in the seed business. They had the horse pulling a wagon in the field, and they would actually pick the corn by hand. If he was a real good picker, he could pick 100 bushels a day. The first self-propelled combine that Langdon's had cut like 10 feet at a time. The ones that they have now cut about 40 feet. Today, farmers can pick 75 to 100 acres of corn a day. So there's a big difference. It's really improved. They sell seed corn, beans, wheat, oats, grass seed, pasture seed. In the spring, they also sell sweet corn and green beans. Some of Bob's father's farmer friends told Bob's father that Bob would probably lose the farm with this new fandangled hybrid seed stuff. Well, he didn't. It is now in the third generation, so Langdon Brothers is actually run by Langdon cousins now.
I'm Leslie Newton, and I'm here to talk to you about why I love the Blackford County Art Center. It took us months with all kinds of volunteers. It was amazing, the help we had. It was a lot of work, a lot more than you imagine. And finally, we had raised enough money that we started reassembling what we thought would be a wonderful center and a fabulous gallery. It looks quite different inside than it did when the Hallmark was there. There was a drop ceiling. Now we've pulled that down, and now there's a beautiful pressed tin ceiling, the original, that has been renovated. It's kind of bronzy looking. It's beautiful, very high ceiling. We had a really dingy carpet, pulled that up, and JR flooring, put in a vinyl, kind of looks like wood floor, which is really nice looking and easy to take care of. We tore old slatted paneling off the walls and put up drywall and painted that, and the Rotary helped us a lot. They bought the Walker hanging system, and that's what we use in the gallery. They hung it for us, and we have year-round exhibits now using that system, and people have applauded us for this really nice system. As the artists come in, they're really pleased with it.
I think it's brought a lot of life to the downtown area. It's given artists and kids and lovers of art and music a place to come and be a part of the community and be a part of the art center, and it's just a nice place for everybody to go and enjoy the arts and to get involved. You know, we need something that all of us can look at and be proud of. We can go there, our kids can enjoy it for, forever. It's like a home for me, really. I love going there. I like being involved. I like having my kids involved. You know, it's exciting to see the things that they do for the community. It's exciting to see people be excited when they come in and know that we've, put on a neat show, or their kids, went through a piano lesson, or they're learning guitar there, or, it's neat to be able to see that and to know that I was a little nugget of a piece of, this big, huge, awesome thing that is in our community. If you would have told us back then, you're gonna have this fantastic facility that people are gonna be envious of, when they're in, coming from Carmel or from, Brown County, saying, oh my God, we wanted to come up here and see your art center. We were tickled. That makes our whole day when, something like that has happened, and, you're sitting there thinking, this has been the greatest thing ever. That we've created this amazing place from just an idea that was like, oh yeah, we should probably maybe have an art center.
My name is Ethan Cox. I'm the president of Hartford City Civil War Days and the Blackford County Civil War Reenactment Club. Civil War Days started back in 1989 by Orville and Bob Ugan. Their real focus was to work with the community and show them the history of the Civil War and how we battled with each other. 2003, me and my mom, we went to Civil War Days. That was when Orville was actually camping on site in his RV, knocked on his RV. I told him I was interested in helping, and really from then on out, I helped every day that year. When I started college is really when I had to slow down on reenacting, slow down with Civil War Days. I wanted to focus on my career. My push to become a police officer was big, so I was focusing on that. When I achieved that goal, I was actually approached by Orville, I believe it was 2013. He asked me to come back. He was wanting to retire. He'd made a life sacrifice to make sure this event went on, and I didn't want to see it go away. Hartford City needs this event. Blackford County needs this event. It's one of a kind. You can expect to step back to the 1860s, experience what life was like back then, what it was like to be a soldier, what it was like to be a family member of a soldier. You can actually talk to soldiers, talk to the generals, talk to Abe Lincoln. The reenactors love to teach history. They want people to understand what it was like during the Civil War. They want to interact with the spectators. They want them to ask questions. They have no problem going up to people and asking them to ask questions. If they have any questions, they want to interact with them. That's why they're in this hobby. Saturday, we probably have approximately 1,500 to 2,000 people come through our gates. On Friday, we had over 1,000 students come through our gates. You can read about anything in a book, but how many times can you go and actually see things? You learn things when you get to see them, when you get to feel them, when you get to interact and ask the questions. Those kids get to at least understand that that's what it was like during a battle. They don't have to read about it. They can see it themselves. During the event, the community pours a lot of support out for us. They come see us. If it wasn't for the community, we wouldn't have Civil War Days. When the event's not going on, we still get help from the community. They're always asking, well, what can we do to make this better? What can we do to help you out? And that's what I feel real important, is that the community's involved. I get the community involved, but the community wants to be involved. And I feel like that's special about Hartford City.
The Presbyterian Church and the courthouse are the only two buildings in Hartford City that are on the historical list, and ours has been on there for about 15 years.
It was a cold day in December in 1843 when several hardy settlers came to meet the Reverend Samuel Steele. He was a circuit riding preacher, and he had come to help these settlers get a church started. Although their numbers were few, the church did grow, and they began to think about that brick church they'd been wanting and began fundraising for it. Everyone was anxious to have the brick church, and donations came in freely. In 1893, the church was dedicated.
We have a window, a stained glass window, made in Belgium, put together, then taken apart and put in boxes and shipped over here. And we had Belgian men here who worked in our glass factories, and they put it back together. It is the largest stained glass window in the state of Indiana that's all in one piece, and it is beautiful.
In 1910, the church organized rummage sales and fundraising competitions to purchase a 2-manual pipe organ. Andrew Carnegie, who also funded the construction of the library across the street, pushed the fund drive over the goal with a final gift of $1,000. A recent complete renovation by the Lima Organ Company brought the instrument back to its current excellence.
We have a thing called silver lining, where if young mothers take their children to the doctor, to the dentist, to the library, get shots, every time they go, they get a little ticket. And when they bring the tickets to our silver lining, they can exchange them for diapers, for clothing, for lotion, clear up to strollers and beds. I think it's kind of a dual purpose. One, it helps the children get things, but it also gets their parents encouraged to take them to the doctor, to get them shots, to take them and have their teeth checked and have things done for them. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation.
The requirements for being on the National Register of Historic Places are the place has to be valuable and worthy of being preserved, and has to be at least 50 years old. And our church is both of those things, and we're very proud of it.